No, don't quote me on that. I looked up what it's on. Yeah, I always forget it. Yeah. Good. Hey, Gary. How are you? Good. Good.
One before the order, first item, Director Miller, lead the budget meetings.
Ready to begin.
Yeah, thank you much. Madam Secretary, if we could have the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller. Here. Division 5, Rob Harris.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Shelley Sourcebel. Here. Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
General Manager Knutson.
Here.
General Counsel Kim.
Here.
And Pam Clark for Holly Hughes.
That's great. We've got 7 out of 7 directors here. That's good. We're happy about that. 1,000. Yeah, that's true. It didn't look very good 10 minutes ago. Okay. Yeah. And we'll move on to
recording in progress.
Roy's glad to hear from people that may be listening in, and anybody that may be listening in and would like to identify themselves, now's the time to do so.
White Fence 3, Jack Sapers.
Great.
John Eucastet, Antelope Valley Mutual Group.
Roseman News, John Joyce reporting. Hi, George.
Hello.
Ben Stewart, Road Community Service District.
Great.
Joe Longstand, Tech Consulting.
Okay, much appreciated. It's nice to hear a lot of these names. They're very familiar, so we're glad you get a chance to listen in and always look forward to your comments. Yeah. Then next item, public comments. If there's any member would like to make any comments about items that are not on the agenda, now's the time to do so. Certainly welcome. We always like to hear comments. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, adoption of agenda. Item 6A1, you need a motion in a second.
Mr. President, I move we adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Director Parrish, and motion and second.
Director Miller, second.
Director Miller, yeah, thank you. If there's no further comments, all in favor? Well, we need a.
No roll.
Oh gosh, dang, this is very new. Going back old times. Everybody signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Next item, the consent calendar in 7A1, basically the check registers. But wants a chance to look at that. They've already had if there's any questions, if there's not, motion would be in order.
Director Donato, I move on 7A1 to accept the consent calendar.
Director Donato, is motion a second?
I'll second the motion.
Director Dias, the second. Madam Secretary, if we could have a roll call.
Director Van Dam,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Paris,
Yes.
Director Dias,
Yes.
Director Sourcewell, Director Donato,
Yes.
Director Lane.
Yes.
And that was fun, but we don't need to do roll call.
Motion carried. And we're moving right along. The next item, we have a report from the Finance Committee, and Director Donato is chairman of that in the committee. Would you care to show off?
Yes. This item here, 881, the Finance Committee back last week and went through extensive briefing from staff. And I'm going to turn this over to Matt, and we can go from there.
All right. Thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, board and people on the phone. So we've got a brief presentation, but I'll refer more to what's in the packet, in your board packet this evening. So on page 15 of the packet is a brief staff report that Teresa and I put together, kind of summarizes the action being considered this evening. So as Director Donato mentioned, this is consideration of resolution number R23-08, which is a resolution approving the repayment of its $45 million in outstanding certificates of participation. It's referred to as the Series 2008 as an Apple -2. It's the variable rate bonds that the agency's had since 2008. So on page 17 is the resolution being considered this evening. And then beginning on page 19 is the analysis that we went through with the Finance Committee. So I'll start with a brief couple slides here to kick us off. So a little bit of background. As I mentioned, in May of 2008, the agency issued $45 million in variable rate COPs, or certificates of participation. This was a variable rate COP. It has a 30-year term, which matures in the year 2037, with principal payments kicking in 2026. So from 2008 to current, it's been interest only on the variable rate. So no principal has been paid off to date. Just to reiterate, those principal payments would begin in 2026. The $45 million in variable rate COPs require a highly rated form of liquidity, and the rate on the $45 million resets weekly. We pay monthly interest only on the loan or on the COP. The agency is also required to issue a letter of credit for the full $45 million, and since 2008, we've received that letter of credit from Wells Fargo Bank. Each time it's been a 3-year term on our letter of credit, and our current letter of credit expires in May of 2023. So just a couple months from now. I think it's mid-May. Is that correct, Teresa? Yeah, mid-May. Next slide here. So we went through and prepared an analysis because that letter of credit was coming due in May. We started having discussions with Wells Fargo Bank and the Finance Committee, and we looked at 5 different options. Just renewing the letter of credit with Wells Fargo for another 3-year term, renew the letter of credit for a shorter term, such as a 1-year term, obtain a letter of credit from a different bank. We could redeem a portion of the outstanding COPs and then receive a letter of credit for the remaining balance. Or option 5, which is what we're proposing this evening, is redeem all of the variable rate COPs, therefore just paying it off. So now I'll refer to the agenda packet on page 19. We kind of go through the analysis. I summarized what's on page 1 or on page 19 of the packet. Maybe down at the bottom, just bring your attention to the average interest paid per year has been about $233,000. That's average, some years higher, some years lower. And then we wanted to look out over the remaining life or the maturity of the 45 million. And the current rate is 2.7%. So if that rate of 2.7% held through 2037, we'd have annual interest payments of $1.2 million, for a total of 17 million through 2037. If you look on page 20 of your packet.
Before you go.
Yeah.
But that interest rate is not fixed guaranteed.
Exactly. This was our, if the rate held today, what it is, that's the amount of interest we would pay. So that rate could go up, it could go down, but probably not going to go down anytime soon.
It can go what?
It can go up or down.
Our legacy go down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. In page 20 of your packet, the top portion shows a detail of when the principal payments kick in the year 2026. So they start off pretty low at $280,000 for the first year and then ramp up through 2037. So just a reminder, that's on top of the annual interest payments on the loan that we just talked about. The use of the proceeds, back when these funds were acquired, it was used for a number of projects. The West Side Water Bank land acquisition, part of the South Feeder parallel pipeline, second clear well here at the treatment plant, the SNP Phase 1 project, and some of the DBP upgrades to the water treatment plant here at Quartz Hill, and other facilities. Down to a little bit further down, you can see payments and interest amounts. So this is a breakdown of the analysis since 2008 through the end of 2022. We paid about 3.1 million in interest. You can see just over 3 million in letter of credit fees, about 622 million in remarketing fees. So a total of just under $6.8 million between all those fees. On the flip side, the agency did receive a little over $8 million in interest income from that 45 million. So at the time, it was a good choice because it netted just over $1 million to the agency, even after paying all those fees. But with interest rates going up, that's why the finance committee wanted to really look at this. So then we get down towards the bottom, gets into the discussion on the various options that I mentioned earlier. Pretty self-explanatory. The letter of credit renewal, would continue. The fee on that would be about $178,000 a year. We would also have the remarketing fee, which is about $45,000 a year. The next page continues with the various options. One option is we could get a letter of credit for a shorter period of time. The rate on that letter of credit would go up a little bit based on the shorter term. We could obtain a letter of credit from a different bank. Teresa and I did reach out to U.S. Bank, who owns PFM, who manages a good portion of our investment portfolio. So they gave us a rate of in the high 40s, and one contingency is we'd have to transition all of our banking to U.S. Bank. So that's really not a viable option, and it's quite a bit higher rate than what we were getting from Wells Fargo. Option 4 is redeeming a portion of the 45 million. For instance, if we want to pay off 20 million, 25 million of the 45, and then get a letter of credit for the remaining portion. Not a lot of analysis went into that option. And then option 5 is what's being recommended through the passage of the resolution this evening. is to pay off the full 45 million. And I wanted to highlight here that our current reserve levels are right at 165 million. If we were to pay all 45 million off, that would leave roughly 120 million in reserves, which is well within the agency's approved reserve policy. It's actually at the high end of that policy. So the high end of that policy is 121 million. And like I said, we'd be right at 119, 120 in that range. So that's good news on that. And down at the bottom, we just listed a couple of pros and cons. I think these are all obvious. A couple of the pros are we would decrease the agency's debt by 45 million, avoid or decrease the agency's risk associated with the variable rate if that continues to go up in the coming years. On the flip side, the cons decrease the agency's reserve, but we're still well within the reserve policy at the high end of that reserve policy. So that's not much of a con, but it's a factor. And then if funds are needed for future capital projects, the agency may need to go out and borrow to complete those capital projects. And then the following 2 pages are just a detail summarizing the annual cost associated with this 45 million and showing the interest earned on the 45 million in the investment accounts, which equates to that just over 8 million that I mentioned earlier. So I'll kind of stop there and see if there's any questions, comments?
I have some.
Yeah.
Number one, you said we have 120 million in reserve after we pay it off. Right. Number one. Number two, that does not include the 2023 property taxes that we have not received yet.
Right.
Which I've been told like 6. Somebody can respond to that.
Yeah, if you look on page 24 of your packet. So annually, our property taxes are about 26 million. 36, I'm sorry, 36 million.
So that would add to we're back at 140 million already. The biggest thing that I'm concerned, well, first of all these little things we get hit with, including the letter of credit, thank God they erased it because we probably have a discussion tonight. But really we should have looked into this, with Rapatella's going to be coming on board here pretty soon with the report. By not paying this debt, any more of this debt, with the inflation rate that they're going to give us, to run the agency and everything else, we'll have a better cushion not to raise the water rate as much to pay back the 45 million. Can you address that?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to is, as you know, we have Rapatella's under contract to go through and do a water rate study for the agency. And part of that calculation is looking out in the future of what our interest and debt payments are. So what you're saying is by wiping out those principal and interest payments associated with the 45 million, it could soften the blow on the required rate increases. Correct. Over the next 5 to 10 years.
And that will happen. And the other thing too is it'll give us a better, with all the projects we got going on right now, it'll give us a better credit rating, Standards and Poor's, because we have less debt ratio to what our reserves are, and we're still building for the future project with the hydros and water banks and things like that.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to throw that. All these discussions were brought up during the meeting, and regarding the comment, and we all know we need a step line, but the question is when, and then there's other items that are being looked at right now with the Department of Water Resources that can contribute a grant to this agency to help pay for that step line. So I personally, as one director, I don't want to bet to come that we need to build other projects when right now our system is doing a a good job until these things come about. Plus, I hear about the winter projects and these other big projects. They can contribute to the agency through our capacity fees and developer fees that will also pay, that will help pay for the stamp line when that's needed.
Yep.
If we're not going to have 3,000 or 4,000 new homes built in the next 2 or 3 years, we really don't need the stamp line. But do we need it today? That's the question. And at what expense to the water rate and also to the taxpayers?
Any other questions? So
Okay, we have a motion in front of us, Board Order 8A1 to approve the resolution number R23-08, approving the repayment of 45 million outstanding certificates of participation series 2000A-2. So,
This is Director Donato. I'll move on Board Order 8A1 to pay off the $45 million outstanding certificates of participation. That's my motion.
I'll second the motion. Director Donato and Director Dias. Is there any further discussion from the board?
Yeah. I really feel good about it.
Okay. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
I understand we don't need that.
no roll call.
No roll call.
We can just do motion.
Do we want, okay. Director Van Dam,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Perez,
Yes.
Director Dias,
Yes.
Director Sourceable,
Yes.
Director Donato,
Yes.
Director Lane.
I'm abstaining on that. Okay. Motion carried. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good job. Good job. Good job.
The community we represent.
Okay. Then,
Does that mean we have to worry about the letter of credit?
We don't. If you see in the resolution, it kind of directs general manager and finance manager Teresa Yates to kind of work through the process. So we'll keep the board and the finance committee up to date as we work through the process. But I think by doing this early, we'll avoid having to do the letter of credit, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
yeah, thank you much. We'll move on to Engineering and Operations Committee report. In Audrey, you're chairman of that committee. You'd like to start?
Yes, our committee met and we're talking about an amendment to the project with LA County Water Works turnout and the upsizing project at 60th Street West, and engineering manager Liz Say will take over.
All right, thank you, Director Miller. Good evening, President Lane and members of the board. Nice to see you all here in person. Not speaking to the clouds here today. The Engineering and Operations Committee, former Capital Improvement Program Committee, met last week, and we went through a very brief presentation. Let me try to get control of the screen back. There we go. So we gave an update on this project, I believe, at the last board meeting, and what the project entails is it's a project for the benefit of Los Angeles County Water Works. They have ventured to upsize their existing AVAC connection at 60th Street West and Avenue L12, just down here kind of by the church on M and 60th. And they're doing that in order to support future demands whenever those come about. And so that project is getting ready to get underway. We hired MC Engineering, who's a firm that we work with on the West Side Underground project. Lost control here again. There we go. We executed an agreement with MC Engineering under General Manager Authority, just under $25,000 for that, which assumed a 2-week duration. So that assumption was made based on AVEC staff asking for a construction schedule on the project, and the developer telling us that they were giving the contractor 10 days to complete this project. We went to the pre-construction meeting on February 22nd, and the contractor was there, as well as Los Angeles County Waterworks, AVEC staff were there, and they presented us with a construction schedule from the contractor, which actually showed a duration of about 6 weeks. This is about 3 weeks longer than what we were originally told and what the fee was based on for MC Engineering. So we went back first to see if MC Engineering could support that longer duration, which they said they could. But of course, they would need to increase their fee associated with their inspection services due to the longer schedule. So they provided us with an amendment to their contract for $50,663, which brings their total fee to about $75,000. So it's about 3 times more for 3 times the longer construction duration. So because we executed the original agreement under the general manager's authority, adding this amendment would require action from the board based on our purchasing policy. So we reached out to LA County Waterworks. The committee, when we met, recommended that we get some written confirmation from LA County that they were accepting of this additional fee to cover the longer duration of this construction schedule. They indicated that they were, and that they were going to get the check in the mail right away. So I'm pleased to report that check arrived on Monday. So we have the full funding from that project in our account already. So we are good to go from that perspective. And with that, go ahead.
Okay. The memo, it says LA County Waterworks turnout upsizing the project at L12 and 60th.
Mm-hmm.
So are they asking to put a bigger size turnout there?
Yeah, so let me go back to the map. I kind of breezed through that because we went over it once before, but I probably should have gone through more detail. So we have an existing line that runs down 60th Street West. It's a 36-inch line, and LA County Waterworks has an existing turnout off of that line. But this is an 18-inch connection, which connects down to, I think, a 14-inch meter within the turnout building here. So what they're hoping to do is this yellow line on the screen. They're going to put in a 36-inch line now that comes here and abandon this 18-inch. And then they're going to put a blind flange on the end of the 36-inch line. You see in the aerial photo here, there's this kind of, it looked like they started to build a pump station there and kind of quit, sort of left it there, and maybe they'll come on in the future, I think, is their plan to completely outfit that pump station. But they're going to put a blind flange on the east-facing portion of that pipe at 36 inches so that they could connect to that pump station in the future. But the line that's going to connect back into the turnout at this point is going to meet up with the existing meter. So they're not looking for additional capacity today or with this project, but in the future, they've got an option to tie into that blind flange and continue that 36-inch connection over to their pump station.
Yeah, my question should be more direct with it, but it's not what they're doing, and I have no problem. They want to increase the size of the turnout, but why did we have to pay more money from $50,000 to $75,000? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why are we paying that too?
Well, we're going to own all these facilities that are being installed. They're paying for this project 100%, but we're going to own the facility. So we want to make sure that the new tie into our line, the 36-inch line, all of that is built to AVEC standards. So we're hiring an inspector to be out there on behalf of staff inspecting that project while it's under construction to make sure it's meeting AVEC standards without having AVEC staff dedicated to doing that.
Then why aren't they paying for that?
They are paying for it. They've already deposited $75,000 with AVEC to pay for that.
Well, I thought when he said we need management approval, I didn't understand. I was thinking that we're going to have to pay for it, but I guess can you explain that?
Yeah, it's going to be 100% repaid by LA County Waterworks. So when we first started the project, it was under the GM authority, so it was within the $25,000. Mm-hmm. We were proceeding under that assumption, but then, like Justin said, the duration went longer, so we required a new proposal for the longer inspection time, and it required more funds. So that's why we had to come back to the board. Yeah.
It tripled, yeah.
Well,
Tripled.
the time to finish to complete the project tripled. And also, these are LA County Waterworks' contractors that they hired. We did not hire them, but we need to manage it to make sure it is to our
They're going to
standards.
pay that fee.
And that's why
Yeah.
they've already
Okay.
paid it.
Yeah.
That's what the committee wanted to make
100%.
sure before we brought it before the board, that we either had a commitment or the funds in hand, because we didn't want to stick our neck out for $56,000 or whatever, $50,000 without having formal approval from them, even though we have a memorandum of understanding or a contract stating that they are paying for the project. When it goes up that much, we want to make sure that they're going to pay it.
Yep.
We
We're
are
covered.
covered on our
Got it.
own,
Thank
so.
you.
So with that, be happy to answer any questions, but the recommendation from the committee and staff would be to authorize the execution of an amendment with MC Engineering for the additional $50,663, which would bring that total contract value to not to exceed $75,148, and authorize the general manager to execute that amendment.
This is Director Sorswell. I'll move to approve agenda item E1.
We've got a motion from Director Sorsable on 8D1 to approve the contract with MC Engineering being reimbursed by Los Angeles County Waterworks District. Need a second?
Director Miller, second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 8.1, High Desert Water Bank and water banking. The committee is, Frank, you want to start that?
Yeah.
Frank?
I believe that we're going to get an update on where we're at with the High Desert Water Bank. So go ahead.
All right, thank you. And hello again. So we've got our monthly board update. We went through this with the High Desert Water Bank Committee at the end of last month and want to present the same information to the full board. So just using my clicker is having trouble, but so this is the same report that you've seen multiple times at this point, but starting at the top with our objectives is to build the High Desert Water Bank, store up to 280,000 acre feet of total storage capacity, and recharge and recover up to 70,000 acre feet with a direct pump back to the State Water Project. Going through the short-term goals the next 3 months, complete construction on the aqueduct turnout. We're well on our way to that, and I think Tia Ning is on the line that will speak to the construction side of things a little bit later in the presentation, as well as continuing construction of the recharge basins and pipelines, working on getting drilling package number 3 for the next set of wells out to bid, and submit our storage agreement application to the AV Water Master, which would be a required component to be able to operate this project. So we've made some progress on that over the last few months. The map on the right-hand side hasn't changed much since the last time you've seen that. So I won't spend too much time on it, but you can see the recharge basin design, as well as the location of the 10 wells we've drilled to date in relation to the brown shaded area, which is our habitat management land, and the location of the aqueduct turnout right here with the bidirectional arrow. The top of this slide, you can see kind of the organizational chart, so to speak, of the projects. Our project partner, Metropolitan Water District, on the far left, Kennedy Jenks serving as our program manager, Stantec as the engineer for design and hydrogeology, our legal team, the contractors working on the project, and Kennedy Jenks again listed under construction management. The left-hand side of this shows the recent program management activity. These are primarily items that Kennedy Jenks is assisting AVEC with. They're continuing to participate in our progress meetings, tracking the overall project progress, making sure everything's going okay on schedule, and people are aware of what they're supposed to be delivering and when we need to have those by. They worked primarily on the AV Water Master Storage Agreement application, and they've provided a draft of that to AVEC staff, so that's under review currently. And they recently led an internal design workshop with the AVAC team and the design team. So that was just a chance for the entire team to get together from the design, hydrogeology, construction management side with AVAC, and all get together in the same room and make sure that we're looking at the big picture of things and staying on track with regards to budget and schedule. The right-hand side talks about upcoming board decisions. There are none at this time, so nothing to report on there. Moving into section 3, this is engineering and field work. So this is primarily work under Stantec's purview. So they're reviewing requests for information, anything that comes in from the contractor that requires a response from the design engineer, including submittals. Participating in those weekly construction progress meetings, working on plans and specifications for the next well drilling package, as well as the well electrical equipping and pipeline recovery package for those wells. They also provided some input from the hydrogeology standpoint on the storage agreement application for the water master as well. Getting into the financial side of things, these are the contracts that we're currently are entered into with regards to the project. So you can see 4 at the top are all for Kennedy Jenks. The first one is for our program management, and then the next 3 are construction management contracts for the 3 construction projects that one, the well drilling package was just completed, but the other 2 are actively underway. Next are services from Stantec. So their primary engineering and design contract, and then their engineering services during construction for the aqueduct turnout and the recharge basins. And then we have our contractors, Blois Construction, working on the turnout, Bakersfield Well and Pump, who have recently completed the drilling of the second set of wells. And then Nicholas Construction, who's working currently on the recharge basins and bidirectional pipelines. So the third column from the left shows the total contract. The second column, from the right, the second column from the right shows the amount that we've paid out to date. And then the far right-hand column shows the percentage of what that equates to. So the only one of these that's hopefully going to change by next month, it should, is the, I shouldn't turn my head here. No, this one here. Bakersfield Well and Pump for construction. You see that one's at 95%. And we've already authorized this issuance of the notice of completion. So we have to wait. We can issue that final payment on March 27th, provided we don't receive anything from any of their subcontractors. That one will likely go to 100%, and we'll probably move it down here to the bottom with the other completed projects by the next time you see this. Moving on to our capital program account.
Can you go back?
Yep.
Just a step one.
Yep. Oops. We need to use this one, I think. Pam, can you help out with this? This clicker's not working here. There you go. One more back, Pam. Thank you.
More?
There's some pretty hefty change orders. Do you have any comments on those?
Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the Stantec line item for project engineering and design. So what's rolled into that includes some amendments that were not originally authorized contract work. So some of the design elements, when we originally let the contract, was just for a portion of the design, just so that we didn't box ourselves into completing the entire project, as well as, with that engineer. But also there were a lot of unknowns at that time of how the project was going to develop. So we didn't want to bid out, for them everything all at once when there were so many unknowns about the design of the project. So some of those amendments are, foreseen changes where we knew we were going to authorize additional design work on this contract as we moved forward. So that encapsulates the bulk of that. And then their engineering services during construction for the 10 recovery wells is also included in there. That's why there's not a separate line item for the engineering services during construction for the well drilling packages.
But in that one, Justin, it was original contract with 3 million, and the change orders are almost 4.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's beyond, I would think that's beyond the reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think calling them change orders isn't completely fair, I guess, because they're really almost separate contracts for different phases of the design work. So.
I have a question. Normally when change orders come through, they're, different than what the actual agreement is. They usually come to the finance committee.
Yeah, all these costs here, that 4.4 million was reviewed by the High Desert Water Bank Committee, and full board approved that.
As change orders?
As amendments.
As amendments,
okay.
yeah.
Because it's a professional services agreement. Okay. It's not categorized as change order. It's an amendment to the original professional services agreement.
And Met also agreed to that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you briefly touch on the other change orders?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. So, go here. So this one is related to the amendment number 2 for the High Desert Water Bank. We did the original CEQA document. Then we did an addendum, the first addendum, which incorporated a lot of the project design changes. So that was this $15,000 that's shown here, the treatment facility. So that's all that we were charged for that one there. Pacific Coast well drilling. This one, as well as the Bakersfield well and pump, those are related to the wells having deeper casing material. We went through that, and I think Montgomery and Associates provided a pretty detailed overview of the process for bidding kind of a typical well design, but then once they get in the field and they do the final design based on the geology of the soils and what's going to produce the best well for us, they make in the field decision of how to design that well. And so that was primarily related to additional casing and drilling depths on those wells to make them more productive and more efficient long term. So that kind of covers the 2 of those. Yeah.
Just to comment on the well design, just to the extent I can help here a little bit, it's a difference in quantities. So the actual well is built to the optimum design, and so you have to pay based on the price per linear foot of well casing and gravel pack and various things, and so you bid a standard 1,000 feet of line. If it comes in at 1,100, you got to pay for the extra 100 feet of casing and design. And the reason why you're doing that is because you're getting more production out of the well and you're getting the optimum. So that's why those are change orders, but they really are just changes in quantity. There was no extras or anything was added. It's just adjusting the price to balance what was actually constructed in the field.
Yeah, I remember that. Now that all makes sense, because the original contract gave them that flexibility. Like you said, I looked at it more like there were 800 feet. They had to go down, 1,000 feet.
Right.
They can't bid on something that they don't know about.
Right. Yes, and we want to make sure that the ultimate price is the price per gallons per minute. So that's how we.
It also gives us a price per foot to go down the contract. So
that's right.
We have fair bidding.
That's right, and then everybody's bidding on the same thing. That's why it's the same amount, and then everybody knows it's going to adjust a little bit based on what the quantities are.
I think we're using the word amendment. It's not the same as a change order.
Right.
Okay, and I think we need maybe.
And maybe we can modify this table a little bit to separate the 2 out. Yeah.
On there.
Okay, there was a couple more there, Justin.
Yep. Yeah. This Stantec one we already just kind of talked about. These other 2 here are just similar to what's here, but these two got broken out. So I think what, kind of one of the things that I'm thinking of when Matt says maybe we can modify this is sort of break out the different services that are being provided by Stantec under, different line items. So this line item here for 211. This is engineering services during construction for the aqueduct turnout. And then the next line item down is the engineering services during construction for the recharge basin. So those were authorized as amendments to Stantec's original contract, but those are just kind of, they're being tracked separately in this table. So maybe we break some more of those Stantec services out into separate detail so it doesn't look like such a large, amendment or change order percentage right there. I think that covered them all. Oh, sorry, Blois. I skipped Blois. This 541,336, if you recall, I don't know, it must have been several months ago, we described the change order needed as a result of some DWR required changes to the project. So the biggest, component of that 541 was the requirement for us to install a fiber optic line from our turnout location to DWR's nearest control building. So that was several thousand feet of fiber line that needed to be trenched, conduit installed, the fiber line pulled and then terminated at the DWR communications control building. So that was the bulk of that. That also included an additional 1 foot of low strength concrete material above the pipe that DWR required. And it also included some asbestos testing of the canal liner that was required by DWR. So I think asbestos testing of the canal liner.
I got a feeling if they did find it, they wouldn't tell us because the whole thing was yet.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be in that one area.
Yeah, well, the testing was negative, so that's good.
It'll be 500 miles.
Yeah, yeah, right. So I think that summarizes all of them.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So if we're ready to move on, this is the capital program account activity. So we have a capital program account, which is funded by deposits from Metropolitan Water District. We use the funds in that account to pay our contractor and consultant invoices. And so we try to keep a running summary of what those payments, as well as the deposits we're receiving from Metropolitan Water District are here on this table. So there we go. Thank you, Pam. I don't think it's me. Like, as soon as I started moving my mouse. Yeah.
Hi, Justin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi. Good evening, directors. Thank you, Justin. We updated the slides since the committee meeting met on March 3rd, so this is a more recent slide. And picking up where we left off last time, the contractor almost finished pouring concrete. As you can see, they did the turn-in structure, concrete deck, to canal lining, concrete pour. And last week, they installed the stop block. And last Friday, they removed the cofferdam. And we have photos to show later on in the slides here. The contractor also, anticipating with the rain today, they moved up the activity of installing the 84-inch pipe. So they did 2 out of 3 and 1 more section to do. Hopefully, they'll come back tomorrow and finish that off. For control building roofing, because of the wet weather, they have not been able to start, but I'm assuming pretty soon, like tomorrow or Thursday, they should be able to get on with it. Next slide, please. Also wanted to report back to one slide, please.
Okay.
Yeah. report that there's rain activity on the week of February 24th that impacted their work activity. And I think this contractor worked like half a week because the site was too wet at that time. Next slide, please. Yes, on the photo from your top left and then the bottom left, it's and then the top right, it's a progression about 2.5 weeks. As you can see, the top left is at that time, late February. They just poured the concrete lining, still have to cover them up because it gets pretty cold at night. And then you can see straight line to the other concrete structure. They just installed the pipe. And the photo left on your bottom here is, it's already cured, those concrete liner. And then they have started backfilling the pipe with slurry. And then the photo on your top right was taken last Thursday, March 9th. And they have totally backfilled that area where the pipe is showing. And then the photo on the bottom right, that it was last Friday, March 10th, that they removed the cofferdam from the canal. Next slide, please. In addition to that, this is what it's looking at on the photo top left. You can see the concrete liner on both sides on the photo on the top left. In between, there's a trash rack that the contractor installed. The photo on the left bottom is another view of the contractor lifting the cofferdam. Photo on the top right is the stop block. The stop block is installed right after the location is right after the trash rack before the flow, any DWR flow, the canal flow is going to the pipe. And we took an aerial photo of the project site. This is last Thursday, the day before the cofferdam was removed. Next slide, please. The second project, stage 1, stage 2 recharge system, and the contractor continue on stage 1 piping installation. They still have a few months to go on this, and they're also continuing doing the stage 2 basins 20 to 27 berm constructions. The stage 2 piping will start after they finish the stage 1 pipeline installations. Next slide, please. Again, the week of the 24th, it rained and actually snowed, so it impacted their work. But they're back to full force now. Next slide, please. This photo on your left showing how the contractor is laying pipe, dig a deep trench where their equipment can go down there, and then they use those heavy equipment to drop the pipe down as the laydown. And the photo on your left bottom is a close-up on how they prepare the trench, the pipe trench. The two photos on your right-hand side, the top being right after a rainstorm for stage 1 berms. Look at it, it's very wet, but a week after that, it's completely dry. So, Justin, I think that's the update for this board meeting.
All right. Thank you, Tien. Any questions for Tien? All right. Good job, Tien. Thank you. Everything's going pretty good out there. Thanks to those guys. Section 8 is other items. There's nothing at this time. And then the last slide here for this report is board action items, which I mentioned at the beginning. There are none at this time. So that concludes the monthly update for the High Desert Water Bank. Be happy to answer any final questions that you might have. Yeah.
Still on schedule to recharge?
July 10th. Yeah, what Tien was mentioning, the stage 1 pipeline, that's scheduled to be completed by July 10th. And that would be the last component to be able to recharge in that stage 1 area. So yeah, still on target.
Do you think you put in 70,000 acre feet of water this year?
No, not this year. That first area down there can take about almost 100 acre feet per day. So depending on, if Metropolitan wants to do, I don't know what that's, almost 6 months, right? So 18,000 or so maybe.
Whatever legal.
Yeah, we have a second priority right to the facility and capacity. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what the final allocation is for the state guard project, but we have options, we have options to store water in San Luis for next year, a little bit of carryover, bank at the West Side Water Bank, up around Ragosta, East Side, etc., or bank out at the West Side, or at the High Desert. I think West Side is probably higher priority than High Desert because we have the recovery capability at the West Side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Title 21.
Article 21, yeah, I've got that in my sheet. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. No further questions? Yeah, thank you much.
All right.
I do have a question.
Oh, okay. One more question. Yep.
It's been more of a comment that we have our own modern marvel happening right now. So I hope we're well documenting and keeping a source book for that, because to me it's like we should put it out to modern marvel.
Yeah, there's lots of photos that the construction management team is taking every day. And AVAC staff goes out there at least once a week and flies our drone around. And we're actually working on a kind of a time-lapse video of that. So as soon as that's, ready or maybe impressive enough to share, we'll make sure we bring that to the board.
You guys in 10 years, how much the water table's going to go up?
Yeah.
Not even at 10%.
Right, yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
The next is the gentleman.
Okay. Good.
We'll start back, Matt.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're on.
Thank you. So got a brief little report today, even got a video in here. So we'll start with our look at the California snowpack and snow regions. As you know, keeps snowing, keeps raining throughout the state. So this map breaks up the three regions, North, Central, and Southern Sierras. And then the table for each shows the average snow water equivalency in inches of rain or water. And then percent of the April 1st average. So as you know, they always measure the final snowpack at April 1 or April 1st. So for the Northern Sierra, we're 169% of what it historical average is at April 1st. So even though that's a couple weeks away. So the percent of normal for this date for the North is 175%. And you can see in the Southern region, we're 249% of the April 1st average and 260% of normal for this date. And since we last reported this a couple weeks ago, statewide, everything's up about 33%. So, been a lot of activity with rain and snow throughout the state. There's another graph that Tom Barnes pulled up, and we thought it was interesting. It's a case study out of the Central Sierra Snow Laboratory. They look at the Donner Pass area by Lake Tahoe, and you can see on the graph, as of this date, 664 inches of snow in that area.
And they can't
Crazy.
And they can't say there's 100% allocation.
Yeah, and we're only at 35%. So.
So they're going to do dump the other 70% of the ocean.
Yeah. And then the blue line shows long-term average, and the blue shaded areas show different percentages of that average over time. So we just thought this was interesting because it's, way up there, 664 inches as compared to the same time frame for the average is like 300 and some odd inches. So pretty crazy. This is our 8-station index precipitation. As you can see, so far for March, we've exceeded the average by just about an inch. So with more to come in coming days, so we're gonna well exceed that average for the month of March, and everything's above average for the wet season. December, January, February was down just a little bit from the average, but we're making up for it in March. This same data showed in the graph as compared to other previous wet and dry years. The blue shaded is the long-term average, so we're well above the long-term average for this date. What the precipitation was in 2018-19 water year. Here's a drought map showing the changes between 2021 and currently. It's animated there, so it's going to be updated with 2022 numbers or drought monitoring colors, and then you'll see a drastic change for the current year. So you can see all of the D4 and D3 has been wiped out or eliminated throughout the state. Lake Oroville continues to rise. It's currently at 844 feet, about 2.7 million acre feet of current storage. It's 77% capacity, and for this time a year, it's 117% of historical average. And then in the San Luis Reservoir, kind of same data. It's currently at 523 feet, 1.78 million acre feet of storage. We're 87% capacity and 105% historical for this date. This shows, let me get back. So this shows the Lake Oroville level. Like I mentioned, about 2.7 million acre feet, well above the long-term average, and we still have a little ways to go. Yeah.
I've already heard on 2 different interviews that they're already spilling water because making room for some potentially in the next 30, 40 days.
The runoff from the snowpack.
Water. When are we able to get the water?
So some of that gets calculated into the Article 21 availability, but you're right. And I've got a video here that shows the releases from Lake Oroville. You're right that they are releasing some water from Lake Oroville to allow for emergency storage and flood control. So we can talk about that in a second here. This shows analysis of some of that, flood control and capacity that they want to retain in Lake Oroville. So now that blue line, the actual storage is getting close to the flood regulation storage. That's why they have to release some flows out of Lake Oroville to maintain that capacity for runoff in the spring when all that snowpack melts and fills Lake Oroville further. So they're being cautious by maintaining that capacity in Lake Oroville. Here's a video. You all remember the spillway damage in 2017? That was in, I think, February of 2017 that damage occurred. The video will go through some of the repairs that were made, and then more recently, the opening of the spillway to release water from Lake Oroville. So the repairs took place between 2017 and 2018. It was over $1 billion to repair that. That was with a B.
I went and saw that last year. It's pretty incredible.
How massive it is. Yeah, you can see people there standing on there that look like little ants. And then a little less than on March 10th of this year, they did open the spillway and started releasing at 3,800 CFS. A couple days later, they increased it to 8,500 CFS. Good shot there. You can see all the snow in the background. Then more, let's see, that was 8,500. I think they increased it a little bit more. Yeah, 15,000 CFS as of today. Pretty impressive video.
Now, do you know if they have their hydroelectric plant building?
That I don't know. Do you know, Dwayne? Are they right now? Are they releasing through the hydro?
Yes, they would be generating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The next one, Cam. And then this graph shows San Luis Reservoir level, just under 1.8 million acre feet. You can see it's continuing to rise, and that reservoir is also getting topped off, and that's why they are offering Article 21 water, or hope to be offering it soon. So we thought we'd spend a couple minutes and provide an overview of Article 21 water program. So that Article 21 is available when State Water Project's share of the capacity in San Luis is full or near full. So we're pretty much to that point now. And Article 21 is the excess supply amount between available export and State Water Project demands. Article 21 is allocated amongst all the contractors that request it based on their proportionate share of Table A. Spilled carryover will equal the available Article 21 water, and Article 21 water is delivery shall not impact allocation or delivery of State Water Project approved Table A. So we can't, if we call Article 21, our deliveries can't impact another State Water contractor's delivery capacity. This is kind of a fact that not everybody knows, but standard DWR transportation charges apply to Article 21. Sometimes people think Article 21 is free, but AVAC still has to pay the transportation charges to get that water here to AVAC. Also, Article 21 water cannot be stored in any of the State Water Project facilities. So we can't take delivery of Article 21 and say we want to store it in San Luis. We have to physically take delivery of it at one of our water banking facilities or treatment plants here in the valley.
But we can't go ahead and store it in the stand in Westland, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can.
Or San East side?
Yeah.
San Amagosa?
Yeah. So, I think
it'd be great to get that much water we can to put down Amagosa. It'll help AV Country Club, help that whole region with all those wells that are in there. Considered classified the most depressed area in the Antelope Valley. So this will be the year we need to. I drive by it every morning and look at it, and I can see nothing in there. So
yeah, Well, we started flowing in Upper Amargosa about a week ago, right, John? So we are getting prepared both at Upper Amargosa and the West Side Water Bank. So Article 21, here's a historical look. Last time it was offered was in 2019. There was about 250,000 acre feet of Article 21 delivered to all those state water contractors. A little more than that in 2017, just under 300,000 acre feet, again, amongst all the state water contractors. And then there was 5 or 6 years of very little to no Article 21 prior to that, going back to 2011. So I thought that was interesting. A little bit more about the program. So how the process works, it's real-time availability, which is determined by DWR and State Water Project operations, and it's evaluated on a weekly basis. So State Water Project operations determines the difference in available pumping capacity and project demand. DWR informs state water contractors of Article 21 availability, and the state water contractors submit their weekly request for delivery. So late last week, we were informed that they wanted to do a dry run of just the paperwork process of Article 21. So they started that on Friday. We got notice. We filled out all the paperwork, said we were interested in taking Article 21. Over the weekend, got an email that said DWR is anticipating that switching from a dry run to a wet run, saying that they were anticipating offering Article 21 this Wednesday, tomorrow. So we, again, followed up with the required paperwork. Late this afternoon, we did get notice that it's not being offered this week, but we're going to start the process over beginning on Friday. So they anticipate it being offered in the coming weeks, and we'll just kind of keep repeating that process. And once the process starts, we have to go through that paperwork process every week. So it starts on Friday, fill out the request, they approve it early the next week, it's offered on Wednesday through the following Tuesday.
Is that creating somebody's job or something?
Yeah, pretty much. Probably 100 people's jobs known the state. So.
Oh my God.
So that's kind of the process. It just repeats weekly, and it's real time. Kind of went through those steps on the bottom section, but I'll keep you informed once it becomes available. But keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully next week, and we can take with our facilities and capacity, we can take. Between 1,800 and 2,500 acre feet per week between all of our facilities. So we'll definitely try to maximize that.
Matt, could you send us an email when you get that happen?
Yeah, sure. Be perfect. Thank you. A little closer to home here, operations. We completed inspections of all 4 Mojave tanks, the Quartz Hill Clear Well number 1, Leona Valley Reservoir, and the Acton tank at the Acton Water Treatment Plant. Recharge has been restored at the Eastside Water Bank at a rate of about 3 acre feet per day, and we're currently recharging at the Westside Water Bank at about 100 acre feet per day. That I think is going up, right, John? 140 acre feet per day currently. Our max flow rate there is about 200 acre feet per day. And I also mentioned we started flows at the Upper Amargosa Creek project. So you'll see, I think that was like 16 acre feet per day, something like that.
I think we started at 8, and City of Palmdale managing the pond as they get more comfortable with it.
And we're scheduled to restart the Roseman plant here at the next week in March. So good news there. A couple of events coming up. We have the AV Edge tomorrow at 11:30. I think we have a couple of directors signed up for that. I think the guest speaker is going to be from the gas company. So that's a brave individual to go there currently. And then we have the Water Master meeting next Wednesday on the 22nd at 10 a.m. here at Avek. And it's also via Zoom if you want to call in for that. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Good. Thank you, Matt. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. So much different than last year.
Yeah. In a good way.
Yeah. Definitely in a good way. Next item, item number 10. If any directors have any reports or anything they'd like to share, now's the time to do so. Yeah, Frank?
Yeah. You know, piggyback on your report, I believe we should put it in full speed ahead on the Big Rock Creek project. You know, I mean, really look at that, you know, building a bridge over or underneath, above Palmdale Water. I guess you build a bridge above the Palmdale Boulevard so we can start doing that, because you got 3 state water contractors and us, but you got Palmdale and Little Rock. Little Rock doesn't even use our water, do they?
No, they don't use it. Right now they have an agreement with Palmdale where they exchange that.
Right,
Yeah.
so, and we need to get that thing approved so we can do that. And now is the time, because, you know, we just paid off these bonds. That to me makes more sense right now than anything else, is getting that water in that creek. It's a natural, and we just need to figure ways so it doesn't hinder traffic, cause, you know, those kind of issues. But I think that's minimum. Take care of that.
Yeah. So, as you know, that's project being spearheaded by the association. And we've looked at numerous options, you know, the culverts. I don't think we ever looked at a overpass or a bridge. It's more of a culvert option. But then lately it's been more talk about building off-channel recharge basins adjacent to the creek. So with Peter Thompson from Palmdale starting next Monday as the new assistant GM, he's been working on that project through the association. So we can definitely, you know, kind of spearhead that project and fast track it if
the point I'd like to make is that the recharge pond is fine, but it doesn't benefit the entire our district all to the east, all the way going to Edwards Air Force Base. It doesn't help any of the wells in that area. And, you know, I mean, if I was somebody who had wells on the east side, I'd pay more money per acre foot to have them put that water in that creek bed to go down, because that's going to bring up the water table. Yeah. And I think maybe there's a plan or something they can do for the east side. I don't know, but it's something somebody should be thinking about.
Yeah.
One thing to consider, Big Rock Creek is flowing naturally. Big Rock Creek is flowing naturally on its own from the snow melt. So when we have so much snow and so much flow coming down the creek, adding more water doesn't really help as much. But as that flow comes down, then you'll be able to add.
Yeah, just throw it in there, it won't make a difference.
Yeah. Well, it gets down to the dry lake bed and then evaporates. Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. Thanks, Dwayne.
The thing is, we don't have anything there. We talked about it. I guarantee it'll be used.
Yeah.
That was my comment.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Good comment. If there's nothing further of the director's reports, attorney, do we have any? Yeah?
Nothing to report, President.
Okay. Item number 12, request for future agenda items. You have no closed session, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. Ready to adjourn?
Yeah. You know, when we adjourn this meeting, I want to dedicate the adjournment of this agency in the memory and honor of Holly Hughes, our executive secretary's daughter, who passed away this last week. Christina. That would be my motion.
I'll second the motion. Very, very well. Thank you. Motion and a second to adjourn to March 28th. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.